Hey there everybody, it's Mark Curley. I'm back with another How to Draw video. Today we're going to be learning how to draw a manga-style girl with headphones on. In order to teach the headphones part, I'm going to have to draw the head first. So I'm going to go ahead and get the basic guidelines for that in time-lapse, and then we'll move on to the real lesson. Alright, so I've got the basic guidelines in place for this female character's head, and we're going to start doing the basic guidelines of the headphones now. I want you to look at this little line that I've placed here over to the left of this eye, and pay a little bit of attention to the space, the little gap that I've left there, because that line is telling me where to begin drawing the headphones. Now, the headphones that I'm chosen to do for this video are kind of retro style, you know, extra large headphones over on my Facebook page, facebook.com/MarkCurleyOfficial. I had asked people what they thought of the idea of me doing a video like this, and there was a lot of approval. Some of them, though, were saying, show us how to draw earbuds, you know, like the more modern style, and I thought, well, maybe someday, but this time I want to do these retro style. Now, the shape of the type of headphones that I'm doing, it's an interesting sort of oval, I'd call a squared off oval shape, if that makes any sense, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't, but the shape has sort of flat edges on this side, but then it sort of curves off into an oval or circular shape on the top and bottom. And this is based on a style of Panasonic actual headphones that I saw. In fact, I would encourage you, if you want to do drawings of headphones or anything really, to look at reference of the actual object, rather than just winging it based on your memory of what headphones look like. This is what professional illustrators do all the time. I looked at a photograph of these Panasonic, like I said, headphones, and I saw that this thing down here that's connected to the headphone is quite low in their design, lower than I would have imagined it up here, right? But it's down here. And in their style, it has this sort of two-pronged, here I'm coming back to my habit of never knowing. Two-pronged. There are two prongs coming off over here on this far edge, and these prongs, if that's the right word, are basically holding this headphone in place and attaching it to what I'm going to call the headband that is going across the top of the head. Does that work? Headband? Come on. It can't be too far from the actual phrase. Those of you in the headphone construction manufacturing industry, please let me know if I'm getting that wrong. But the shape of the headband, again, as I saw in this reference photo, is coming up here across the top of the head. Now notice how far back it is on her head as it comes across, and gradually, you know, there's a certain width here in the band. That width is going to get narrower and narrower, not in real life, of course, but just in the perspective as you look at it going across the head if you're trying to draw this in this three-quarter kind of position. These two lines grow closer together as they reach the top of the head and curve across. Now, I am going to be zooming in a minute to get into the details of the actual headphones, but before I do that, let me maybe draw a couple more things. I noticed that they had a clip almost that was holding these two prongs. I feel like I'm saying the word prawns, like shrimp. Hey man, we're going to go out for prawns later on. But there is this clip that holds them in place, and the wire, there's the wire, you know, that's conveying the actual audio from one headphone to the other in this retro style, has a big thick, there's a big thick wire that sort of curves off to the back. As I say, this is retro, not an actual antique or old headphone. I think it's newly made by Panasonic, and sounds like I'm doing product placement here. The new Panasonic retro stylish headphones. All right, Panasonic, come on, man. Let's make a deal. You guys send me a check, and I will keep making the videos. But if you don't send me the check, In any case, no, this is not paid product placement. But basically, the message I want to give to you is the importance of using reference, of looking at actual things. I think sometimes the young artist believes that a real artist doesn't need to look at anything. You draw it all from memory, that it's sort of a mark of pride. Look, I drew this without looking at anything. I didn't copy it, right? And yeah, to a certain extent, if you're copying your entire illustration line for line from someone else's picture, that maybe is not the height of artistic achievement. But, as I say, professional illustrators, they want to draw headphones. They're, don't kid yourself. They are going to look at a photo, or they're going to look at actual headphones. Some would argue even better, look at actual, real headphones rather than a photo to learn how to draw it. So the big message is don't worry about trying to draw everything completely from memory. There is no shame in looking at photographs, reference photographs, and so forth. Anyway, I am beating that point into the ground. It is time to zero in. We're going to refocus this so that I can show you more of the details. All right, now that I've zoomed in here, I feel like I need to refine this a little bit in terms of its shape. It is a tricky shape, as I said, this sort of squared off oval shape, and I feel that it needs to be a little more rounded here at the top. I sort of joke about people having this idea that I never erase, but I think it is good for you to see the sort of refining process of, hey, this doesn't look that good to me. Let's change these lines before I move on to the final lines. Last thing I want people to think is that I never erase things. Absolutely, I do, if they don't look right to me. Now, here I am going to turn these single lines into kind of double lines because they are, these metallic wires, not really wires, prongs. Just somebody help me. Give me a new brain that knows the words for things. Struts? Spokes? Anyway, these two metal things, there are two of them, and they go all the way down through this thing. Now, I think the idea is that the headphone is adjustable, right? That's the whole point of this. And these, I'm going to call them spokes. Let's call them spokes, like bicycle spokes. They go into this holder at the bottom, and these holes here that go in, it can be moved up and down. For like a kid wearing the headphones or an older person. And so that's what that's all about. And again, this whole structure was made clear to me by looking at a photograph. So, depending on what style you like, some people might say, boy, that looks really clunky to me. I want to draw a character that's wearing more lightweight headphones. Well, again, pick up or check out a photo. Conveniently, a lot of times a manga character's head is in a 3/4 view like this. Well, happily, when the people create the photographs for displaying or showing their headphones, they tend to present them to you in this 3/4 point of view, which makes it real easy for looking at that and sort of drawing it on the head of your character. Indeed, you could probably find photos of an actual person wearing. The tricky thing is when you do this in a manga character's face, you're trying to adjust the reality of actual headphones onto the somewhat cartoony proportions of a manga character's face. You may need to adjust, it seems to me, from looking at a photo of a real model. And then, of course, you're going to be able to find even illustrations, manga style. There's just loads of manga style illustrations that show you characters wearing headphones. It's kind of a thing, isn't it? This girl wearing headphones thing. There's something sort of attractive about it, and it seems like every manga illustrator likes to sort of present their variation on it, and that's partly why I wanted to do this video. Also, I love music, and I think many of my viewers here on YouTube love music as well. Let's refocus the camera so that you can see the headband. I think that's going to be the last thing we do before we start moving on to final line work. All right, so there's not so much to say about this. All I'm going to really do is add a sort of double line at the edge of this headband thing. To me, that just sort of adds structure to it. The Panasonic people, for whatever reason, have a sort of piece of metal here or whatever that adds an extra detail to that little edge of the headband. And when it comes to shading, I think you're going to see me adding a lot of shading that's going in a sort of horizontal direction. The reason I'm going to do that is, and I learned this from classical drawing training, is that so a lot of times when you're shading something in, you should have the lines go in the direction that you're trying to make feel more solid, if that makes sense. If I drew a whole bunch of lines that were going diagonally like this, it would tend to just flatten it out. Whereas if you imagine the surface, it kind of going left to right, the structure that's underpinning this thing, having your lines follow that, right? And even to the point where I have this idea of curving them a little. Do you see what I'm doing here? Sort of curving them as they reach the end. This sort of helps to convey that form. And this is one of these things that goes beyond how to draw headphones to sort of just how to draw anything in general. Think about the form that you're trying to convey. And if you are going to shade in or put lines on something, have those lines helping to convey that form. Well, I think it is time to move on to the final line work that I always do with my trusty black Prismacolor. What pencil is that? It is the trusty black Prismacolor. Oh, if only that were product placement. Man, I would be just rolling in dough by now. Anybody connected to the Prismacolor people, just, come on, put in a good word for me. In any case, let's go ahead and finish up the line work, add the shading, and I'll be back with some final words. All right, well, just a little word or two about the shading here. One thing to keep in mind is generally this area here, the padding, is the one that's going to be the darkest, and then you can maybe do some contrast, make this a little lighter, although you probably want to put shading toward the bottom, with the light coming from the top. That gives a little more three-dimensionality. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is my first manga-style video in quite some time. Some of the viewers were expressing concern. Mark, you've stopped doing manga-style illustrations. What's going on? Definitely will continue doing this, as well as the realism challenges and all the different kinds of experiments that I've been doing lately. But let's go ahead and say thank you to anyone who has supported me by getting any one of my books. We got the Brody's Ghost graphic novel series, Miki Falls, 4 books in that series, all of them available already in the stores, and Mastering Manga, my How to Draw Manga book. I really do appreciate anyone supporting me by getting those books. But hey, this video is not over until you add the blushies. I highly recommend adding the blushies, because if you don't, your YouTube viewers may rise up against you. So for your own personal safety, I think you really ought to do it. But let's lay down this pencil. I want to thank everyone who watched this video. I hope you found it useful, and I'll be back with another one real soon.